Well, I think you touched on it right at the end of that right there is that Jaylen Brown is finally making the leap. Jaylen Brown is evolved. The last time we did the morning box score, I got on Jaylen a little bit. He had just come off that a little bit of a stinker in the first game against the Pacers. He only took one 3-point shot. We were talking about how TJ Warren kind of took him out of his game a little bit. And we needed him to be more aggressive. And since then, he has been far more aggressive looking for his offense. And he's been going in, getting into his bag. I don't need Jalen shooting a majority of his shots from distance because he is the one of the few guys in the league who can score efficiently from all three levels. So his mid range, bro, has been especially money so far this year. I mean, if you had to guess, what do you think Jalen Brown is shooting in the mid range so far this year?
Well, I have some of his numbers up here, so I have a decent estimate, but I know on two pointers overall this year, he's right around about 64, 65%,
Yeah, it's insane. He's
which
actually
is
shot
nuts.
with this game because he was perfect from 2 point range today, so that's going to go up because all of his misses were from distance. But he shot over 70% in the mid range so far this year, and that's in stark contrast to in the past where he's been a 45% mid range shooter on similar shots. So we can't say that these numbers are sustainable, but I don't imagine that Jalen is going to necessarily ever be a bad shooter from the mid range, and he can get his shot off whenever he
Mhm.
wants. And we always talk about Tatum, and sometimes the game comes so easily to Tatum that he almost overcomplicates things at times, where he tries to. There was that one of the plays today where I forget who he had switched on to him. I think it was Sadiq Bey, and Tatum took about like eight through the legs dribbles back to back, and it wasn't even like the James Harden through the legs where he's setting you up and just waiting for you to like
Mhm.
step to the high side and explode by you. He was just like it looked like someone had was playing 2K and was just mashing buttons all at once. And Tatum can definitely overcomplicate things because he has so much available to him. But Jalen just like is quick and decisive with all the moves that he's doing this year, and he's doing all of them at a really really high level. And when you add on top of that, despite the 6 turnovers today, he's making better reads. Some of the passes today, some of his turnovers were just like it almost looked like he had a glitch or something like that. Like he had one pass looking for Tice that he sailed into the front row of the stands.
Yeah.
So Jalen, you got to be super excited if you're a Celtics fan to see Jalen Brown becoming better than anybody ever thought possible this early into this season with the first year of his extension.
Yeah, man, that third team All NBA prediction is not looking so crazy 7 games into the season. Absolutely on track for it. One of the things that has been really amazing about Jalen Brown is right now he's averaging 11 made field goals per game. He's only two people to average over 11 right now are him and James Harden.
Wow.
That's it. That's the list. So, Jalen putting himself into that upper echelon is, and like you said, I think we have to still, it's 7 games, so we still have to, have a little bit of a larger sample size. But like you said, I don't see this falling off a cliff, especially, as those that have followed the Celtics closely. This isn't entirely a surprise. We've seen Jalen Brown. He's had those true progressions, and I've seen a lot of comparisons, and I think this has always been kind of what we hope for Jalen Brown. You looked at guys, and this is super hard to replicate. So this is, not easy to do, but you look at the guys like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, the guys who weren't immediately out the gate the number one scorer, the best defender, but they developed that all around game. And I know right now people aren't high on Paul George, but if you could have told, if when you drafted Jalen Brown, you said, hey, this guy's going to be, a Paul George type player, that's a home run. That's a fucking home run. There's no doubt about that. And I think we're starting to see Jalen really come into his own, especially which you and I have talked about. This is the Jays team. This is them without training wheels on right now, and especially without Kemba. This is allowing them to find their footing, and we're getting to see a lot of this where the Jays and specifically Jalen, where he's starting to control. Especially I noticed in that first quarter where Tatum's usually the one that gets the initial break. Jalen's the one that's controlling that, secondary offensive unit where he's that main player. What have you been your thoughts on just Jalen as far as, that's one of the added responsibilities that Jalen's taken on this year. What have you seen from him when he's been that main guy without Tatum through 7 games?
I mean, I've seen more than I ever thought I would see from him, to be honest, man. My prediction coming into this year was that Jalen was going to struggle in that role. I knew Brad was going to give him the opportunity, because you gotta try it out. You can't rely on Marcus Smart running your second unit and just doing pick and roll with Marcus Smart. It's just not
Yeah.
going to produce enough high level looks for an offense. Like Marcus can take over from time to time because he is a good playmaker, but we needed Jalen and Jason to really step up into that role. And he's looking for his shot. So I think that's one of the things that makes Jalen so deadly is he's always looking to score, right? And then he's starting to make reads, really high level reads. Because he's so aggressive and because he's always looking to score, the defense needs to be paying attention to him. But he's looking to score, but he still has his head up. He doesn't have tunnel vision anymore. And he's making some really nice plays. Like there was that one play, Scal brought it up during the game where Jalen drove right, double team came when he got into the paint and he did a little dump off to Semi for a layup. And Scal was like, I don't think I ever thought Jaylen Brown would make that pass. And
Hmm.
I wouldn't go that far, but Jalen, he's got really great instincts. Or I don't know if it necessarily they're instincts or if he's learned the reads, but either way, he's been phenomenal running that second unit because he is looking to score and no one's stopping him right now. And then when the defense does overcommit to him, he's not afraid to make the extra pass, and that's something that Celtics fans probably didn't see coming.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of the things that I've noticed about Jalen here early on, that's definitely a new feeling, is and I think we experienced it a little bit with Tatum last year when you feel like Tatum's in a zone, or you feel like a certain, and this can apply to anybody that's listening of any team that you're a fan of that has a star player, and you feel like, oh, they're taking over, even if it's for these next 5 minutes, they're taking over this game. You feel like every shot they take is going in, and especially with the Grizzlies game earlier this week, today he went 13 of 16, and you've seen it a couple of the Milwaukee game to start the season as well. There are moments where you just feel like, man, give Jalen the ball, and I trust everything that's about to happen right now,
Yeah,
and it's this supreme confidence as a fan just
yeah.
watching Jaylen Brown, where I'm expecting every shot to go in now. There's not a shot that I think in years past, there's times where, I'm a little like, I don't know if I felt great about that shot. I don't think there's a shot Jaylen Brown can take right now that me as a fan am going to feel bad about.
Yeah, for sure. And that last play right before Tatum hit the game winner, Tatum drew the defense and kicked it out to Jalen, and Jalen kind of hesitated for a split second, and I thought that shot was going to come up short because of the hesitation, and it didn't. It was still money. And you're right, man. Jalen, every shot that he takes, you think it's going in. The mid range is deadly. I think the next level for him is going to be when defenses start to realize, yo, we can't play drop coverage and pick and roll against Jaylen Brown. Like Jalen, they haven't double teamed Jalen yet in any pick and roll situations. So as you saw with Tatum, it takes a few games. It takes a season or so for you to start making the reads off of the double team. But if teams want to continue to sit and drop coverage against Jaylen Brown in the pick and roll, he is deadly from mid range, as we've seen, and he's getting really good at snaking the screen, just like Chris Paul does. Chris Paul is made famous and just get into that little mid range floater game, and his
Mm-hmm.
floater game's been unbelievable. And the way that he shoots all those mid-range shots is so much more fluid than how Tatum does it. Tatum kind of always has to. It looks awkward, right? When Tatum shoots a floater shot, it always looks like he's gonna just like throw the ball out of bounds, and somehow comes up really really soft. Like if you watch Jeff Teague can get a floater whenever he wants, but he doesn't have the touch. Right, so
Yeah.
some of them will brick off the glass, and some of them will come up super short. And right now, Jalen has the best touch around the rim. I mean, dude, last year at the rim, I know this is a little bit different, but Jalen shot over 70% at the rim last year on layups and dunks, and this year he's continuing that. So, one of the things with him scoring at all these levels, man, going into the game tonight, he had a pretty much even distribution from all the on Basketball Reference, right? It breaks it down from at the rim, 3 to 10 feet, 10 to 16 feet, or I think it's like 10 to maybe like right before 3 point range and then 3 point range. and he had like an even distribution of the number of shots he's taking from all levels of the floor, which I mean that meets the eye test because it looks like Jaylen Brown can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, against anybody on the floor. So I mean, Celtics fans have got to be absolutely stoked to see a fully evolved Jaylen Brown.